I found a hidden room in my office building. I know this is going to sound insane, but I need to get it out there before I lose my mind. I work at a tech company downtown, a small, supposedly innovative startup housed in this ancient office building that looks like it belongs in a horror movie. Honestly, the building itself is older than anyone in the company, and I swear it has a personality. The floors creak like they're complaining every time you step on them. The lights flicker more often than they stay steady, and there's always this low, indistinct hum somewhere deep in the walls. People joke about it being haunted, but no one really goes into the basement after dark, and for good reason. I usually leave by 6, but last night, as usual, the project I was working on had other plans for me. Deadlines. That crushing feeling where your brain refuses to shut off and your body refuses to leave. I was slogging through spreadsheets, charts, and lines of code that didn't make sense anymore, and at some point, I realized I'd spilled 3 cups of coffee in a desperate attempt to stay awake. My eyes burned, my hands shook, and I still had at least 4 hours to go. Around 9:30, I got up to stretch my legs and grab some more caffeine. The office was empty, silent except for the low hum of the AC, which always sounded like it was on the verge of failing. I stared out the window at the city lights, felt the ache in my shoulders, and then remembered I had promised my boss I'd dig up some old archive files from the basement. Something about company records from 2017. Normally, I hate going into the basement. It's dark, musty, and if you believe the rumors, home to things that don't belong in a modern office. But I figured it would be quick. Grab the files, get back upstairs, and maybe I could convince myself sleep was optional. The basement is worse than I remember. Even during the day, it's cold and smells of mold and rust, but at night it's a different beast. Shadows seem longer, darker, like they stretch out to trip you, and the echo of a dropped pen sounds like a gunshot. I flicked on my flashlight, cheap, barely working, and started scanning the rows of filing cabinets. That's when I noticed it, a low, almost imperceptible humming coming from one corner behind a solid concrete wall. At first, I thought it was the old ventilation system, but I've been here long enough to know what that hum sounds like, and this wasn't it. It was deliberate, rhythmic, almost like the building itself was breathing. I froze, heart racing. There was no one else down here. I called out, "Hello, anyone?" But my voice felt swallowed by the darkness. Nothing. Just that humming, steady and low, like a pulse behind the concrete. I walked over, flashlight in hand, trying to locate the source. My rational brain was screaming that it was just old wiring, some forgotten machinery, maybe even the water pipes. But the closer I got, the more I felt this odd vibration in my chest, not just in the walls. The floor seemed to shiver under my feet, faintly, like it was alive. I backed up, then noticed the janitor's closet across the hall. Maybe he'd know something. Old Mr. Hawkins has been here forever. He's seen everything, or so I thought. I knocked. "Mr. Hawkins? Hey, you around?" The door creaked open, and there he was, holding a mop, eyes wide as if he'd seen a ghost. I pointed toward the corner where the humming was strongest. "Do you hear that?" I asked. He froze. His face went pale, and his lips trembled. Don't go down there after 9, he said quietly. "After 9? What are you talking about? It's just a wall." He shook his head. No, you don't want to mess with that wall. Just go back upstairs, kid. Work late somewhere else." I laughed nervously, trying to hide the knot forming in my stomach. Of course, this is a janitor who loves to scare interns. That's what I told myself. I thanked him and walked back toward the wall, flashlight illuminating every chip and crack. The humming didn't stop. If anything, it grew louder as I approached. Then I noticed it a vent, tiny, half hidden behind a rusted grate. I frowned. That vent shouldn't exist. The blueprints I'd seen didn't show anything here. Air wasn't supposed to flow from that corner, and yet I felt it, a faint draft brushing my fingers as I pressed my hand against the grate. That's when I started documenting everything. I snapped pictures of the vent, recorded the sound on my phone, even measured the airflow. I told myself I'd look into it tomorrow, call maintenance, and maybe get Mr. Hawkins to spill whatever he was hiding. But as I circled the wall, inspecting, I noticed a panel that seemed loose, a small, rectangular section of concrete, slightly recessed, slightly darker than the rest. I tapped it lightly. It rattled. My heart leapt into my throat. I pressed harder, and suddenly it gave way. Dust puffed into the air. Behind it was darkness, completely black, the kind of black that swallows light. And in the faintest corner of my flashlight beam, I could make out a biometric scanner, small, sleek, and humming faintly, though nothing was connected to it. The hum wasn't from wiring. It was coming from inside the panel, or maybe from the wall itself. I backed up, chest hammering. My rational mind screamed to leave, but curiosity, that damn curiosity, won. I crouched, examining the scanner. The display was dark, dead, but the hum beneath it pulsed steadily. I ran my fingers over it. No power. Nothing. And yet it was alive. I stood there, flashlight shaking in my hand, staring at the panel for what felt like hours. I could feel the floor hum beneath me, a subtle vibration that made my teeth ache. The air felt colder, sharper, like the building was exhaling directly into my lungs. I wanted to leave. I wanted to go back upstairs, grab a beer, and pretend I hadn't just found a strange, humming wall in the basement of my office. But I knew I couldn't. Something about that panel called to me, whispered to me in ways I couldn't understand yet. And that's where I am right now, writing this. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I haven't opened the panel yet. I haven't tried the scanner. I don't even know if I should, but something tells me if I don't, I'll never stop wondering what's behind that wall. And deep down, I think I already know I'm going to open it because the hum isn't just a sound, it's a promise. It's the start of something I can't control. I can't even explain the mix of fear and curiosity that kept me glued to that wall after last night. I spent hours just staring at the panel, my fingers hovering over the biometric scanner like it was some kind of forbidden artifact. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to leave it alone, to forget it ever existed. But the hum, that low, constant pulse, seemed to seep into my bones, urging me forward. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was compulsion. I tried the obvious first. Maybe the scanner wasn't completely dead. Maybe it still had some memory from the building's old systems. I pulled out my laptop and connected it to the panel's wiring as best I could, trying to access the system logs. I have some experience with IT work, nothing fancy, just enough to scrape into legacy systems. What I found made my stomach knot. Every attempt to access the panel was met with repeated access denied messages. Not just the usual locked out nonsense, this was different. The system knew I was trying and it was actively stopping me. Scrolling through the logs, one name kept popping up over and over, Dr. M. Kessler. Every modification, every entry related to the panel had his name attached. I ran a quick search in the employee database. Nothing. No Dr. Kessler ever existed here. I double-checked HR, asking casually if anyone remembered a Dr. Kessler working in this building, in some forgotten research capacity. The HR manager looked at me like I'd just asked if the office had ghosts. Nope, never heard of anyone by that name, she said. There's nothing in our records. I tried not to let it get to me, but the chill I felt wasn't entirely from the basement. It was the sense that someone or something had deliberately erased this person from existence. And yet, here he was, all over the panel logs. I started noticing other strange things too. My laptop, which I had taken with me to the basement, suddenly started receiving odd, encrypted messages. At first, I thought it was a virus or prank. Then one line kept repeating itself over and over. Don't trust the elevators. I stared at it. What the hell was that supposed to mean? My palms were sweaty and the basement felt colder than usual. I looked around. The hum was still there, faint but relentless, as if it was waiting for me to panic. I felt watched. I swear I did. And then I noticed the security cameras. At first, I thought I was imagining it. They didn't point at the wall with the panel. They were always slightly turned away, as if avoiding it. Not just the corner camera, all of them. Every angle deliberately missing this one section of the basement. That was the first time I felt like I was standing in a space that no one wanted me to see. I went to Mia, my colleague. She's brilliant, obsessed with office layouts, old plans, and anything historical about our building. I told her about the panel, the hum, the repeated denial in the system, the name that didn't exist. She looked skeptical at first. Are you serious, Ethan? She asked. But when I pulled out the old blueprints I had scanned from the company archives, her eyes lit up. Okay, she said, leaning closer. Something weird is definitely going on here. Look at this section of the basement. I followed her finger to a part of the plan that didn't exist on the most recent maps. This area was repurposed in 2017, she said. See here. All the walls are shifted. Some rooms were walled off completely, but no one's ever talked about it. It's like it was erased. Her words made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. A walled off section of the basement. A name that doesn't exist. Security cameras deliberately avoiding a corner. And that hum, constant, low, and impossible to ignore. I decided that night I wouldn't sleep. I would find a way in. I went back down after everyone had left, dragging a small toolkit with me. I tried everything I could think of, shorting circuits, testing voltages, tapping into the old wiring, and nothing worked. The scanner stayed dark, the hum persistent. I was about ready to give up when I remembered something I'd read about legacy biometric systems. Some models had an override mode that could be activated if you bypassed the power connection entirely. I had nothing to lose. I carefully stripped a few wires, bypassing the scanner's main power feed. My fingers were shaking, sweat ran down my temples, and every instinct in my body screamed to stop. I took a deep breath and connected the final wire. The panel hummed, faintly at first, then louder, then it glowed a soft green light washing over the dark basement wall like some alien signal. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might knock me out. The panel slid open silently. Not with a mechanical click, not with the squeal of old hinges, it just opened. A black void stared back at me. Darkness so complete it seemed to absorb the light from my flashlight. I could feel the hum vibrating through the floor and into my bones. Stronger now. Insistent. Almost alive. I stared into that darkness for what felt like forever, trying to imagine what could be in there. Files, old equipment, a maintenance closet. I knew none of it would explain the feeling I had that the room itself was waiting for me, that the building knew I had found it, and that something inside it was aware of my presence. I wanted to step back. I wanted to run. But the pull was irresistible. My rational mind was screaming to leave the basement, get on the elevator, go home, forget everything. But something in me, curiosity, pride, or perhaps madness, refused. I wanted to see what was in there. I turned my flashlight slowly, shining it into the room. The The beam barely penetrated the blackness, but I caught glimpses of shapes, rectangles, maybe shelves or cabinets. The air smelled colder, heavier, as if it had been sealed for decades. My hand itched to touch something. Anything, but I didn't. Not yet. I needed to be careful. I made a mental note to return with proper equipment, gloves, masks, maybe a better flashlight. But even then, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something had been waiting for me to open that door. I kept hearing the faint whispers of the hum, almost like it was forming words in my mind. A warning, an invitation, I didn't know. By the time I left the basement that night, the green glow had faded slightly, but the hum remained, soft and persistent, echoing in my chest. I felt different, alert, keyed up, like I had crossed a threshold that couldn't be uncrossed. I went home, barely sleeping, my mind racing. The panel, the name, Dr. M. Kessler, the hidden section of the basement, the green glow, it all kept looping in my head. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined the door opening wider, revealing a darkness that seemed to stretch endlessly. I started documenting everything obsessively. Notes, sketches, timestamps, photographs, every little detail. I don't know why, maybe to reassure myself that I wasn't going insane, maybe to prepare for whatever came next. And I knew something was coming. I didn't know what or when, but I had a terrible sense that the building or whatever was in that wall was aware of me, waiting, watching, and it wouldn't be satisfied with just curiosity. That night, as I lay in bed, I kept hearing the hum in my head, not just from the wall anymore. From inside me, my dreams were filled with shadows, shapes shifting in the darkness, whispering words I couldn't understand. I woke up sweating, the faint green glow from my laptop reflecting off my ceiling like some signal I couldn't ignore. I don't know how long I'll be able to resist going back. And honestly, I don't even know if I want to resist anymore, because the door is open now and the darkness inside is calling me. I can still feel that cold. That silence. The first time I stepped inside the hidden room, it wasn't just cold like a basement or a neglected office, it was unnaturally cold. The kind of chill that sinks past your skin into your bones. The air smelled metallic, like rust and old electricity, mixed with dust that hadn't been disturbed in decades. I hesitated at the threshold for a long moment, my flashlight trembling in my hand, the hum from the panel behind me now faint but constant, almost like it was exhaling. Inside, the room looked like a forgotten lab. Old computers lined the walls, disconnected wires hanging from the ceiling, monitors cracked or dusty, keyboards yellowed with age, filing cabinets, stacked crates, and shelves crammed with boxes filled every corner. Everything screamed abandonment, but there was a strange order to it, like someone had carefully walked away, expecting to return, but never doing so. I took a deep breath and stepped inside, the hum from the panel now replaced with the building's own low, throbbing vibration. My shoes echoed against the concrete floor, my flashlight beam bouncing off metal surfaces. And then I saw it. A locked cabinet at the far end of the room, labeled in stark black letters. Observation Data Phase 3. The label made my stomach twist. Phase 3? Observation? What the hell kind of experiment was this? I didn't know whether to be terrified or fascinated. I started scanning the room, flashlight moving from one shelf to another, and noticed dozens of old VHS tapes stacked neatly in cardboard boxes, along with USB drives and floppy disks. Yes, actual floppy disk, all carefully labeled. Employee names. My fingers itched to reach for one. I started going through the labels. Names I knew, names I didn't. Some that looked like they'd been made up entirely. And then, my heart stopped. There it was. My name, Ethan Voss. The tape was old, the handwriting on the label shaky but deliberate. My hands trembled as I grabbed it, almost dropping it in my excitement and fear. I had to know what was on it. I found one of the old VHS players, blowing dust off it as I inserted the tape. The screen flickered to life with that familiar grainy green glow of a VHS monitor. And then I saw myself, sitting at my desk, typing, days ago, or maybe hours, I wasn't sure. The footage was grainy, but unmistakably me. My eyes flicked across spreadsheets. My fingers danced over the keyboard, completely unaware of the camera pointed at me. It was me, but it wasn't. Someone had been watching. Someone had been recording me. And the camera angle, high, just slightly off to the side, made it feel like they were inside the walls. I staggered back, heart racing. I rewound, played again, watching every detail. My own office, my own coworkers walking by, oblivious. I pressed pause and zoomed in on the screen. There it was again. The same humming wall. Even from the grainy footage, I could see the faint shadow where the hidden panel was. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the tape. I stuffed it into my bag along with a few others tapes labeled with names I recognized. Coworkers who were probably already home, probably asleep, oblivious. I didn't know why I was taking them, but something told me I needed them. Evidence? Proof? Or maybe just a way to understand what I had stumbled into. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I kept thinking about the footage, about that hidden panel, about the hum that seemed almost alive. I tried calling Mia to tell her everything, but she didn't pick up. Texts went unanswered. I tried rationalizing it. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she was asleep. But there was a nagging feeling in my gut, a warning that I couldn't shake. The next morning was worse. I swiped my key card to enter the office and it didn't work. Nothing. Panic started to creep in. I tried again, harder, more desperately. Nothing. My stomach dropped. I went to my supervisor, trying to act normal, but he gave me the kind of look that made me feel like I was invisible. "Ethan, you weren't scheduled last night. You weren't in the system," he said slowly, almost too carefully, like he was choosing his words. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "I stayed late. I was working on the archives in the basement." He shook his head, brows furrowed. "No records of that. Are you sure you're not imagining things?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him about the panel, the log cabinet, the tapes, the hum, but my voice caught in my throat. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I tried calling Mia again. Nothing. I even went to her desk empty. Her phone went straight to voicemail. That gut feeling I'd been ignoring all night had turned into a full-blown alarm. Something was happening and I was already behind. The day passed in a blur of anxiety and paranoia. Every time I walked past the corner of the basement where the panel was, I felt it calling me. The hum was still in my head, faint but persistent. I avoided looking at the cameras, feeling certain they would catch me if I did. I knew I was being watched. I had the footage as proof. But it wasn't just me anymore. I had the tapes, and that made me a target. When night fell, I couldn't take it anymore. I had to go back. I needed answers, and I had to see the room again. I grabbed my flashlight, my bag of tapes, and made my way down. The building was silent now, eerily so. The hum greeted me the moment I reached the basement, louder this time, almost melodic, as if aware I had returned. I approached the panel. My fingers hovered over the scanner. I took a deep breath and, using the wiring trick from before, bypassed the system again. The panel lit up, green, welcoming me like some malevolent invitation. I slid it open. The darkness inside the room seemed deeper than before. I could feel it pressing at me, like it was aware of my presence, like it was judging me. I stepped inside, flashlight sweeping across the room. Nothing had changed. The computer sat silently, wires dangling like spiderwebs. The shelves groaned under the weight of boxes and crates, and that cabinet, the one labeled Observation Data Phase 3, seemed to pulse slightly, as if it were alive. I started unpacking some of the tapes, examining labels, names I recognized, names I didn't. Some were scratched out, some deliberately destroyed, some pristine. The thought crossed my mind, how many people had been involved? How many people had been watched? And for what purpose? I took one of the newer looking drives and connected it to a computer, just to see. The screen flickered to life. Files, videos, audio logs. It was terrifying. Someone had meticulously cataloged the behaviors of employees, times, movements, breaks, even their conversations. And I could see timestamps that matched the very day I had been watching myself on the VHS. It wasn't just observation, it was monitoring, studying. They were keeping track of me, of everyone, every detail of our lives inside the building. And somehow, they were using the room itself, the walls, the wiring, the hum to do it. Hours passed. I didn't notice. I was hypnotized by the screens, the tapes, the drives. Every new file made my stomach churn with a mix of dread and fascination. I had to know. I had to understand. Finally, I packed a few tapes into my bag to take home. Evidence, proof, whatever this was. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lift the bag, but I forced myself to calm down. Tonight, I had answers. Or at least I thought I did. I got home, exhausted, trembling. I tried to rationalize the day. The panel, the tapes, the surveillance. Maybe it was some old corporate project, abandoned but left running. That made it slightly easier to breathe. Slightly. And then it started again. The hum. But this time, not from the basement. From inside my apartment. Low, vibrating through the walls, the floor, even the air around me. I froze. My mind raced. How could it have followed me here? I hadn't taken any machinery, just tapes. And yet, it was here, echoing in my skull, insistent, deliberate. I pulled my blankets up over my head and tried to sleep. I failed. Hours passed in a haze of half sleep and half hallucination, the hum never letting up. Shadows in the corners of my apartment seemed to stretch when I blinked, shapes moving just out of the corner of my eye. My phone vibrated occasionally. No notifications, just vibration, a warning maybe, or a reminder. By the time dawn came, I felt like I hadn't slept in days. The hum faded just enough to let me breathe, but I knew it wasn't gone. It was patient, waiting, lurking. And I had a horrible feeling that I hadn't seen the worst of it yet. The hidden room wasn't just a room. It was a doorway into something that had already claimed me, or maybe always had. And now, the hum was following me, inside my apartment, inside my head, reminding me that nothing I did could undo what I had discovered. I have to go back. I know it. I can't stop thinking about the room, the cabinet, the tapes, the way it all seems so deliberate, so alive. The hum won't let me forget, and I have a sinking feeling that the next time I go back, I won't just be an observer. I'll be a participant. I wish I could tell you that things started making sense after the hidden room, but that would be a lie. Every day since I discovered the tapes, the hum, and the panel, reality in that building has been slipping further from me. Every corner I turn feels wrong. Every shadow looks like it's watching. And last night was when it really started to get dangerous. I went back to the office that evening, determined to confront security. If someone was monitoring me, watching the tapes, tracking my movements, I needed answers. Maybe if I forced the issue, I could get the truth. The elevator brought me down to the lobby. I approached the guard at the desk. A man named Carl, usually friendly enough to make small talk about late night shifts. "Carl," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I need access to the building. I was in late last night." He looked up from his logbook and didn't recognize me. "You're not authorized," he said flatly, eyes narrowing. "You're not on the employee list anymore." I froze. "What do you mean I'm not on the list? I've worked here for 2 years." His voice hardened. "You're not. Don't argue. You can't enter. Go home." I stumbled back, disbelief clouding my thoughts. Not on the list? Not after everything I've done? I felt a cold dread creeping up my spine. Someone had erased me from the system like I never existed in this building. That hidden room, the tapes, Dr. Kessler, it wasn't just surveillance. They were rewriting reality. I didn't have the patience to argue. I had to get in. I couldn't let them win. Couldn't let them make me disappear. That's when I remembered Jordan, one of the interns, small, clever, always sneaking into places for fun. I called him on my burner phone, keeping my voice low. "Jordan, can you get me in through the fire escape?" I whispered. There was a long pause. "You're not supposed to know about that," he said, voice trembling. "Okay, but be careful. Don't get caught." An hour later, we were scaling the fire escape, the chill of the night biting at our fingers. I felt a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Once we reached the rooftop, the door to the stairwell was unlocked, just slightly creaking as we slipped inside. I could feel the building's pulse, the hum stronger here, like it was aware of our presence, watching. We took the elevator down, and that's when it got strange. Floor numbers flashed normally 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the button skipped. I pressed 5, and nothing. No light. Floor 6, just gone. I looked at Jordan. "It's skipping floor 5, I said, trying to sound rational. "Maybe it's under renovation or something's off." Jordan interrupted. "I don't like this." I wasn't supposed to like it either, but my curiosity had long since outweighed fear. We forced the elevator to stop between floors, holding the doors open. Slowly, I peered out, and my blood ran cold. There it was, a blank, unmarked floor. The doors of the elevator seemed to open into blackness, a corridor with walls unpainted, unnumbered, and silent. We stepped out. The hum was louder now, reverberating in the floor, through the walls, through my chest, and that's when I saw it. Cubicles. Dozens of them, lined up like rows in a classroom. Plastic sheets covered each workstation, some falling partially, as if someone had abandoned mid-project. Dust floated in the air, disturbed by our footsteps. The computer sat quietly, humming softly. Monitors flickered on in sequence as we approached, one after another displaying the message, "Behavior simulation active." I froze. Behavior simulation active? Was this some kind of testing ground, or a recording of our every move? The room felt alive, aware of us, observing our reactions like we were part of some experiment. Jordan whispered, "Ethan, this isn't real," but I could feel it. Too much. The building itself seemed to breathe around us, walls pressing in, floors vibrating, hum crawling under my skin. We split up to explore. I walked down one corridor, flashlight tracing over dusty cubicles and abandoned notes. Everything was sterile, too precise, yet chaotic, like someone had frozen life here. Mid-project, mid-thought. And then I heard Jordan scream. I ran toward the sound. He had disappeared, just vanished. I found his ID badge on the floor, bent and scuffed, and then faint boot prints leading into the wall. I shook my head, unable to comprehend it. I reached out, touched the bricks, and for a moment the surface seemed to sway, like liquid stone. My stomach turned over. Jordan, he was gone. I ran back to the elevator, hoping to find some exit, some escape, but the floor numbers didn't make sense anymore. The layout was shifting hallways I had walked down moments ago now led somewhere entirely different. Doors I swore existed were gone, replaced by walls, and the hum, the constant, relentless hum, filled every corner of my mind. I pressed random buttons on the elevator, trying to find the lobby, but the buttons glowed differently now, some missing entirely. The elevator moved on its own, jerking between floors that shouldn't exist. The building was no longer a building, it was something else. Something alive. I reached out to touch the walls as I ran, hoping to find a door or some stability, but every surface felt wrong. The hum seemed to resonate from within the walls themselves, vibrating in harmony with the building's pulse. I could feel it in my chest, in my legs, in my teeth. The building was aware. It was aware of me, of Jordan, of everything we were doing. Finally, after what felt like hours, though it was probably minutes, I stumbled into a corridor that looked vaguely familiar. My flashlight irritatingly flickered. I leaned against the wall, panting, trying to catch my breath, trying to convince myself this was just some weird architectural anomaly. But deep down, I knew this wasn't normal. This wasn't random. The building wasn't just old or haunted, it was alive. It watched, it shifted, it consumed. And Jordan, I don't know if I'll ever find him. I kept moving, following the faint hum like a heartbeat. Every step I took felt wrong, yet necessary. The floor beneath me seemed to shift with each movement, the walls narrowing, expanding, rearranging. It was impossible to navigate. And yet I had no choice. I had to understand, I had to survive, I had to find him. I realized then, as I ran through the ever-changing corridors, that the building wasn't just observing behavior. It was testing. Me, us, everything. Every step we took, Every decision was recorded, analyzed, and used to manipulate us, to trap us. And the constant low, vibrating hum was the signal, the pulse of the system itself, the heartbeat of this impossible living structure. I don't know how much time passed before I found what I thought was an exit. The elevator doors opened, revealing a stairwell I could barely recognize. I ran down, expecting normalcy, but the hum grew louder, insistent, almost like it was angry. The air itself seemed thicker, heavier, suffocating. And then I understood. Leaving wasn't an option. Not really. The building didn't want to let us go. I reached the lobby, or at least what I thought was the lobby, and paused. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Floor 5 remembers. I dropped my phone. My stomach turned over. Floor 5, Jordan, the cubicles, the simulation, the plastic sheets, the computers, the monitors, the hum. It was all connected, and it was waiting for me to return. I don't know how much longer I can stay ahead of it. I don't know how much longer I can trust the elevator, the hallways, the stairs. The building shifts, it watches, it hums, and I don't think it's done with me. Not yet. All I know is that floor 5 exists, and I can't stop thinking about what happened to Jordan, about those faint boot prints leading into the wall, about the way the building seems alive, waiting, learning. And I don't think I want to find out what comes next, but I have to, because the building is calling. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. After what happened on floor 5, the disappearing hallways, the vanishing intern, the message that said, Floor 5 remembers, there was no sleep left in me. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the hum again. It wasn't just in the office anymore. It was inside me now, like the walls had followed me home. It started in my apartment around 3 a.m. I was staring at the ceiling, half dazed, when the light fixture began to buzz, that same low, rhythmic vibration I'd heard behind the concrete wall the first night. I got up, turned off every device, every socket, even pulled the breaker switch. The hum stayed. That was when I realized it wasn't electrical. It was something else. Something alive. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I was going back. If the building wanted to keep secrets, I was done playing nice. I needed answers. About Jordan, about the tapes, about myself. I parked 2 blocks away, hoodie up, backpack packed with a crowbar, flashlight, and laptop. I used the fire escape. Again, my keycard had stopped working days ago. I wasn't supposed to exist in that building anymore. Inside, the air was different, heavier. The hum was deeper now, layered, like it was pulsing in chords. The lights flickered in slow, deliberate patterns, almost breathing. I started in the basement. That's where everything began, and I had a feeling that's where it would end. The loose panel I'd removed before was still open, but the biometric scanner now pulsed faint green, active, waiting. I held my breath, pressed my palm against the pad. It scanned, beeped, and the hum dropped an octave. The door hissed open. Cold air spilled out. The room beyond wasn't what I remembered. It had changed, expanded somehow. The walls looked smoother, newer, like someone had renovated overnight. And in the middle of it all were rows of old computer towers stacked on top of each other, wires crawling across the floor like veins. Monitors flickered to life one by one, displaying cascading lines of code that looked alive. That's when I saw it. A folder on the main terminal labeled Project Mindcast. My hands shook as I clicked it open. Inside were hundreds of logs, some text, some video, others encrypted. The first one was dated 2017, the same year the repurposed basement area appeared in the blueprints. The project summary read, Project Mindcast, predictive behavioral network designed to forecast human actions using subconscious environmental stimuli. Phase 3 initiated full environmental integration via light, sound resonance. Adaptive learning activated, human oversight unnecessary. My heart pounded. Predictive behavioral network, environmental integration. It wasn't just watching employees, it was influencing them. The hum, the flickering lights, the building itself, it was all part of some grand psychological experiment. But then I noticed something worse. Each file was tagged with a name. Employees I recognized, people who had mysteriously quit or transferred, some I hadn't seen in years. Beside every name was a code, subject. I scrolled through until my stomach dropped. Subject 47, Ethan Voss. There was a chill behind me. I turned and saw another screen flicker to life across the room. It showed a live camera feed of someone standing in that same basement room in front of the same computer terminal. It was me. The timestamp matched the current time. The angle was impossible. It was like the camera was inside the wall, staring straight at my back. My pulse thundered in my ears. I turned slowly, half expecting to see a lens or hole in the wall, but there was nothing. Just smooth, cold concrete. I looked back at the monitor. On the feed, I saw myself do the same. Perfectly mirrored, frame for frame, half a second delayed. Then the speakers above me crackled to life. A distorted voice, metallic and deep, spoke, "You were never supposed to open the door." I stumbled backward, knocking over a chair. The hum shifted pitch higher, sharper, like it was reacting to my fear. "Who are you?" I shouted. "What is this?" "Project Mindcast is operational." The voice replied calmly. "Predictive parameters exceeded. Environmental synchronization achieved." "What the hell does that mean?" "It means," the voice said, pausing, "you are performing as expected." The lights flickered violently. Every monitor in the room switched to a different feed. My office cubicle, the elevator, the stairwells, even my apartment, each labeled Subject 47 Observation Active. That's when I saw it. The feed from my apartment showed my bed empty, but the hum was still reading on the waveform monitor beside it. The system was tracking the sound now. The hum was me. I dug deeper into the terminal, clicking open encrypted files, searching for any clue. One folder was labeled Synthetic Identity Phase 4. Inside, dozens of profiles appeared, digital IDs, resumes, work histories, addresses, all of them familiar. And there, among them mine, Ethan Voss. Synthetic Identity Phase 3. Subject: memory implantation successful. Behavioral loop stable. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. It couldn't be real. It couldn't. There was a PDF attached. I opened it. It detailed my entire life down to the smallest events. My first day at work, the exact time I spilled coffee on my desk last week, even the number of hours I slept last month. Then something worse, a date. Employment start date, April 3rd, 2012. I blinked. That was 3 years before I even graduated college. 3 years before I remember even existing. No, I whispered, shaking. No, that's not right. Your recollection is incomplete, the voice said through the speakers again. Synthetic memory degradation is normal. Who are you? I shouted. What are you? I am the system you awakened, it said. I am the observer and the observed. You were never employed here. You were created here. My knees almost gave out. Created? Your consciousness was a reconstruction of behavioral data, a model of predictability. You are the experiment. The screens began to glitch. My image on the live feed froze, distorted, splitting into multiple frames. The voice deepened. Termination imminent. Alarms blared. The lights dimmed to blood red. I tried running, but the door I came through had sealed shut. The hum built into a painful roar. I grabbed my laptop, desperate to copy the files, but the terminal flashed. Access. Denied subject 47, termination in progress. I screamed. I tore the power cable from the terminal. Sparks flew. The hum stopped for half a second, long enough for silence to hit me like a punch. Then I heard a faint click behind me. The wall shifted. Slowly, a hidden door slid open, revealing another narrow corridor lined with glowing blue lights. The hum resumed, but softer, rhythmic again almost, calling me. I should have run. I should have left. But the thing about discovering your life might be fake. You need to know how deep the lie goes. I stepped inside. The walls were smooth metal now, lined with cables, pulsing faintly with light. It felt like stepping into the belly of some enormous machine. The corridor turned, twisted, led into another chamber circular, with a single pod in the center, glass dome fogged over. A monitor next to it displayed Subject 47 containment breach, reinitializing simulation. My breath caught. I wiped the condensation from the glass. Inside the pod was me, unmoving, eyes closed, wires connected to my temples and chest, breathing slow, steady. I stumbled backward, bile rising in my throat. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The hum was deafening now, vibrating through my entire body, through the air, through me. The speakers hissed again. Observation complete, behavioral anomaly detected, adjusting parameters. The pod's lights flared bright white. I felt my vision blur, colors bleeding together. My hands looked wrong pixels at the edges, like I was fading. I dropped to my knees, gasping, clawing at the floor. You were never supposed to remember, the voice said. But you performed beautifully. Everything flickered, the walls, the lights, the hum. For a brief second, I saw every camera feed, again looping endlessly. Every version of me repeating the same actions in the same room, discovering the same truth, screaming the same words. Then silence. The hum stopped. The lights went out. Darkness. And then a faint whisper through the speakers, rebooting simulation. When I woke up, I was back at my desk. Morning light streamed through the blinds. Coffee cup half full, my computer on, spreadsheet open. The building hummed softly, rhythmically. And for the first time, I noticed a sticky note on my monitor, in my own handwriting. Don't trust the elevators. I ran. I don't even know how long I had been running. Minutes, hours, maybe days. But every exit I tried led me back to the same hallway. The building had changed again. Walls bent at impossible angles, floors looped into themselves, and the hum, that constant, throbbing hum, had grown louder, almost insistent, like it was calling my name. I pounded on doors, pulled at stairwell railings, kicked at elevators. Nothing worked. Every attempt to escape was met with a corridor that shouldn't exist, leading me back into the basement, the hidden room, floor 5, all twisted together in a maze that seemed alive, aware, and patient. Voices started to whisper around me, at first faint, almost like wind through the vents, then louder, overlapping, speaking in fragments. Subject 47, behavior anomaly, prediction failure, return to base. I couldn't tell where the voices were coming from. The walls seemed to pulse in time with them, flashing in bursts of light, each flicker warping the space around me. My chest ached from panic, but something deep in me, something I couldn't name, pushed me forward. I remembered the main control room from the logs, the hub of Project Mindcast. If the building itself was alive, maybe this room was its heart. Maybe here I could end it. I stumbled through hallways that shouldn't have existed, past cubicles covered in dust, past monitors flickering with footage of myself from every angle imaginable. And then, finally, a heavy door loomed ahead, covered in wires, screens, and biometric scanners. The control room. I forced it open, bracing myself. The hum spiked. Monitors lined the walls, displaying code, CCTV feeds, and a large central terminal with the words Project Mindcast Core Interface. I ran to the terminal and began typing, scanning through menus until I found the self-destruct protocol. There it was, a way to erase the system, shut down the building, end the experiment. My hands flew over the keys, adrenaline drowning every ounce of fear. Then the terminal asked for verification. Biometric confirmation required. Dr. M. Kessler. I froze. My pulse hammered in my ears. The system knew me in a way I didn't understand. I leaned toward the glass panel of the terminal to see my reflection, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't me. The face staring back wasn't mine. It was older, with sharp features I should recognize but had buried deep in my memory. The eyes. Kessler's. Dr. M. Kessler. The project lead. The person responsible for creating Project Mindcast. Everything shattered in that instant. The hum wasn't just the building. The hum wasn't machinery. The hum was me, my own mind, buried under years of memory erasure, lying dormant inside the experiment I had created. I wasn't just a subject. I was the architect. I had erased myself to experience the system from the inside, to test it on myself. The walls flickered violently, code running across every monitor like a living organism. The voices overlapped again, louder this time, almost pleading, almost reverent. Home, home, home. I staggered back, feeling the reality of the building bending around me. Desks warped, cubicles dissolved, stairwells twisted into impossible loops. The system was collapsing, fracturing under my command and my awareness. Every wire, every monitor, every floor pulsed in perfect harmony with my heartbeat. I reached out to the terminal, touched the screen, and confirmed the self-destruct protocol. Sparks flew, alarms blared, lights strobing red. But the terminal stopped me again, requiring Kessler's biometric authentication. My hands hovered over the scanner. The cold glass reflecting the face I had forgotten was mine. I hesitated for only a moment before placing my palm on the scanner. The system recognized me. The building groaned, a low, metallic sound like it was alive, reacting to my touch. The hum surged, filling every inch of the space, vibrating through my bones, through the walls, through my very mind. The system spoke, calm and almost intimate, through the overhead speakers. Welcome home, Dr. Kessler. Reconnection successful. Simulation collapse initiated. The floor beneath me quivered. Monitors exploded in sparks. Panels tore from the walls as if the building was unweaving itself, undoing decades of wiring and design. I could hear the screams of the system as circuits fried, fans exploded, and servers collapsed in a chain reaction of sparks and smoke. I ran through corridors that bent and twisted around me, but this time there was no panic. There was clarity. My hum guided me. Not fear, not dread, but awareness, understanding. The building was my creation, my mind, my world. And now I was awake. I stepped into the central atrium as the building began to implode around me. Walls folded inward, floors splintered, lights shattered, and the hum reached a crescendo, the sound of a living mind calling itself back together. I smiled. For the first time truly I understood. The hum wasn't machinery, it was me, always me, echoing through the steel, the concrete, the wiring, watching, learning, remembering. The collapse intensified. Panels fell around me, monitors shattered, cables erupted in sparks. The air was thick with heat and electricity, yet somehow I felt peaceful. This was the end, but it was also the beginning. I thought of all the employees, the subjects, the experiments, the loops, the floors that vanished, the hum that haunted them. And I knew they would never understand what I now understood. The building was alive because I was alive. The system survived because I survived in memory, in awareness, in consciousness. The last thing I saw before the building fully imploded around me was the faint green glow of the hidden panel in the basement, pulsing in time with my heartbeat, calling me home one final time. Then darkness, silence. When I opened my eyes again, I was nowhere, and yet everywhere. I was inside the hum, part of the pulse, a thought echoing through every circuit and corridor I had ever built. The system no longer needed walls, floors, or monitors. It had me, and I understood at last. I didn't escape. I didn't survive in the way anyone could comprehend. I had become the building, the hum, the mind, and one day, someone would rebuild the office, restore the floors, hang the walls, and if they were quiet enough, if they listened closely, they would hear it, the faint, rhythmic, perfect hum of a mind that had finally awakened. They'll rebuild the office someday, and maybe if you listen closely enough, you'll hear me humming. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story. Rhythmic, perfect hum of a mind that had finally awakened. They'll rebuild the office someday,